4, and here further we will talk about large sample theory from convergence point of view. So coming to outline of today's lecture, first I would like to discuss about convergence and asymptotic equivalence. That means there is a demand of asymptotic equivalence in sense that if you are having two sequence, then simply we can't say that those two sequences would be equal to each other. We can talk about equivalence in sense that if we express one sequence in the little o notation of another sequence, that dominate there would be two sequences, easily we can say that those are comparable to each other. And when we talk about in asymptotic sense, that means when n is approaching to infinity, in that case both are having the same nature. When n is very large, then both the sequence is having same nature. That means asymptotically those are equivalent to each other. That means both may have the same limit, both may have the some kind of convergence rate, similar kind of convergence rate, and various. So when you talk about convergence of a sequence, then definitely convergence, and there would be rate of convergence. We need to talk about with which rate that sequence is going to converge to certain point. So that rate we need to talk about. So if we are having sequence which is asymptotically equivalent, simply we say that both are converging with same rate. That is the meaning of, or really some kind of relative rate would be there. Okay. Afterward, I will talk about law of large number and central limit theorem and some associated example. And later in the next class, I will talk about various problem, how we can solve with the help of central limit theorem and law of large number, and using that normal distribution. So now onward, what is happening that if you try to solve any kind of problem, and simply remember that you can use normal distribution. You always proceed with normal distribution. Apart from that, you have to come up with large sample theory. So if you are combining these two together, you can solve various problem, you can calculate various probability irrespective of the source of the data. You can solve various probability related problem. So that's why you will see a lot of interesting example of application of this theory here in this part. So coming to convergence and asymptotic equivalence, in yesterday class I had already told that regarding convergence of a sequence I had already described, and also you all have gone through convergence of a sequence in math 1 class. So criteria is that you just try to define convergence of a sequence through epsilon n definition. That means for if you are taking any epsilon, then with respect to that, definitely you are getting a natural number n, so that after leaving few first n minus 1 terms, most of the afterward terms are falling in that epsilon length of the epsilon neighborhood of the number a, where the sequence is going to converge. So that is the criteria, geometrical criteria of convergence of a sequence. Now we are coming from there that we will discuss here about asymptotic equivalence. That means why we are talking about asymptotic equivalence, that we know that we are having two sequences a and bn, and definitely these two are going to converge to certain point. Then we will talk about if both are going to converge a certain point, then can we say that those are asymptotically equivalent. So what is the measure through which we are defining asymptotic equivalence? So measure is we define it through this ratio of these two sequence. So we are defining ratio of each term of the two sequence, and we are saying the uh, what is the what when n tends to infinity, where this ratio is going to converge. So if it is going to converge to certain point, then simply we say that these two sequences are asymptotically equivalent. And one example I had already taken, that if you are taking a sequence an having term, nth term is 1 by n plus 1 by n square, and another sequence you are taking 1 by bn having term nth term 1 by n, and if you try to see the ratio of an and bn, it is coming as 1 plus 1 by n, and which is approaching to 1 when n is approaching to infinity. So we can say that these two sequences an and bn are asymptotically equivalent. Apart from that, if we are having two sequences which are asymptotically equivalence, then what will happen? So one of them would be what simpler in representation. So we will proceed with that simpler sequence, and we can derive most of the property of the previous one. Okay, the complicated one. So here we can say that in these two sequence, bn is the simpler one and an is having little bit complicated form. So we can say that if someone is saying that asking what is the limit of an, don't calculate the limit of an, directly calculate the limit of bn. It is very easy to calculate limit of bn. That one is what? 0 when n tends to infinity. So we can say that we can conclude that um, limit of an would be also 0, because here an and bn are asymptotically equivalent. So we don't need to compute directly with an, we are dealing with bn, and from that we can conclude about an. So that is the facility through asymptotic equivalence what we are getting. Okay. Further, if we talk about in classical statistics, what large sample theory, it is part of classical statistics. So what is happening that you will come, you have at hand, you will have a sample. From that sample, you will define various statistics. One of them is what we call it sample mean. So this sample mean. So here you are defining sample mean. Then you can define sample sample variance. You can define sample variance also, you put suffix it here. So all these are what statistics with respect to what sample you have taken with n observation. That means our size n, x1 x2 up to xn. So this is the sample given to you. So from this you are defining this term, this sample mean, sample variance, all these you are defining. So what you do, sometimes you will have various representation of sample mean, various representation of sample variance. So it depends upon, so you have to proceed with which one is a better one, which one is a better one, which one better one in means what does it mean better. There are various criteria that which one is simpler one, which representation is having simple form, so we will proceed with that. So that's why simplification is always it relies on approximation. Like one simplification that if you take Gaussian distribution, then you know that mean, median and mode, all three are same in case of Gaussian distribution due to symmetric nature. Okay, so in that case you can define mean, sample mean, sample median, sample mode, and try to proceed with that one which is having a simple representation. So you can see that sample mean is having a simple representation. So that's why if you try to proceed with that, then that one is characterizing everything. So in asymptotic, in what we call it in large sense, like when n is large, that means in asymptotic sense all are equivalent to each other. So that criteria you can proceed with. Likewise, there are various definition of sample variance as well. It is not like that only one definition, there would be various definition. You can proceed with any one of them, and you have what. So better idea is that try to proceed with simpler one. So that classical people used to do that. And when you are doing proceeding with simple representation, what is happening that it is not, there is no much compromise, what we call it compromising with accuracy. Definitely it would be very good accuracy, because you are talking about large sample size. That sample size is very big, so that's why accuracy would be better. But one thing definitely it would come that when you're talking about large sample, competition would be very high. It will take time, and you need to know many mathematical that many convergence criteria you need to know. So just for simplicity, we are introducing here few a special kind of notation, what we are calling it as a little o or a small o notation, and another one we will introduce big O notation. So those are just notation convention, and it is just simplify our convergence criteria. So what does little o notation say? That if you are having two sequence a and bn, then we say that an is of little o of bn. What does it mean? Simply we say that the convergence rate of an is slower than just that means simply you can say that convergence rate of an is less than equal to convergence rate of bn, less than equal to that. You can say that convergence rate of bn is convergence rate of an is dominated by convergence rate of bn. Simply we can say that. Another way, in a layman way, we can say that an is slower than bn. What does it mean? simply say that if you take ratio of an and bn, then we know that bn is having a faster convergence rate, and it is coming in denominator. Definitely it will provide heavy tail criteria when n tends to infinity. That means heavy right tail, what we are calling it. So heavier thing always try to push down, pulls down. Okay, so due to that the ratio an by bn, it will converge to 0 when n is very large, when n is approaching to infinity. So that is the meaning of if you try to see from computational point of view, the meaning of little o notation is like this way. That means the right hand term bn, what you observe with o, little o, then we say that that one is having faster convergence and then an. Okay, like one representation you might have already seen, that Taylor's theorem. In Taylor's theorem, what we do, as per what a smoothness of the function, we try to approximate given a smooth function with the help of Taylor's polynomial. So suppose the function is one order, first order differentiable. So what we do, we try to approximate that with this first degree 1 Taylor polynomial. This one is Taylor polynomial, degree 1 Taylor polynomial, or simply we can say that it is first order approximation. In that process, we say that there would be two terms. One would be this, we are calling it Taylor polynomial, and another would be what we are calling it remainder after that first order polynomial, remainder. So this remainder in Taylor polynomial, it is what, it is of order 1 by n. You can easily see that it order would be 1 by n. It would be little o of 1 by n, or order simply also you can say that, but here call it little o of 1 by n. Here this one is the remainder term. We don't need to write uh, here rn directly, just you can express that one. It is of the this nature. Okay, that means if you take a difference of fx and t1 of x and divide it by rn, that will approach to 0 when n tends to infinity. So that is the meaning of that. Now, if you, there are two specific criteria for this little o notation. One criteria is coming that likewise this way. That means both sequence an and bn are divergent sequence. Both are diverging to infinity when n goes to infinity. That what does it mean? Then what is meaning of this little o notation? Then again, this notation is valid, but what does it mean? It simply says that both are increasing in nature. That and what increases in a what is the rate of it? So this is talking about rate of increasing, how much how, which one is faster and which one is slower. So I had already mentioned that here in this case n is slower and bn is the faster. So both are converging to infinity. Definitely then you can talk about the rate of convergence, which one is faster and which one is slower. So if you observe this kind of notation, you can say that an is slower and b1 is faster, and both are diverging to infinity. So in that sense, we can say that we can get a bound, lower bound in that process, lower bound in term of so it is having a uh, so we can here n increasing slower than bn with asymptotic lower bound. It would be in term of bn. Okay, likewise what is happening, that suppose these two sequence both are converging to 0, both the sequence a and b and converging to 0, then again through this notation we can conclude that it is converging to 0. Then what is meaning of that? There is why it is converging to 0. That means it is decreasing. So value of a and b and both are decreasing. So here we talk about rate of convergence with a decreasing sense. Okay, so here if you observe this kind of things, then we simply say that an is decreasing to 0 much faster than bm. And what would be upper bound in that case? An will upper bound of an, it will be provided by bm. So one example you can see it like this way. Suppose one sequence is there and it is expressed as of little o of 1 by n. What does it mean? That means n is first thing, that n is converging to 0. Then next it is talking about with what rate, then it is converging faster than 1 by n. So simply through this representation, it is talking why 1 by n, it is of order 1 by n. So it is so we can see that each 1 by n is a positive number, and it is going to converge to 0. What does it mean? That means definitely decreasing. All these values are decreasing when n is approaching to 0. It is asymptotic. 1 by n is what, one hyperbolic nature. So when n goes to infinity, it is what, it is in decreasing sense. So it is decreasing so much. So n is decreasing to 0 much faster than 1 by n. 1 by n, we also know that what is the rate of decreasing, decrement of 1 by n, that one is 1 by n. 1 by n itself, easily we can say that, easily we can visualize. So here that is the sense of little o. Further, if you talk about little o and big O, so there is one more definition of little o, how we define it. So suppose we are having sequence an, so that those things were in two different sequence. So here we try to make little o notation with respect to sequence 1 by n to the power delta. So this kind of sequence we are trying to take. This sequence we know that definitely when delta is greater than 0 positive, then it will converge to 0 as n tends to infinity. Here we are putting one condition that delta is greater than 0. So in that sense, it is was decreasing a sequence, definitely it is going to converge to 0. So here we will talk about one sequence is it would be given any general arbitrary sequence n, and bn would be our fixed sequence. It is of the nature of 1 by uh, n to the power some delta. And here in convergency, generally these kind of situations are coming. So what is happening that we will see that we will say that a sequence xn, it is of order little of n to the power delta. What does it mean? It simply says that here order of xn, it is less than order of n to the power delta, provided x by n to the power delta is approaching to 0. So if it is approaching to 0, so here this situation is coming. Simply we can say that it is less than equal to order of xn would be less than equal to uh, and delta when we observe this kind of situation, x to the power n divided by n to the power delta n is approaching to 0. So when it will approach to 0, the denominator must be heavier than xn. N to the power delta must be heavier than xn, then it will approach to 0. Otherwise, it won't approach to. If it is lighter, it won't approach to 0. So it must be heavier than xn. Then it will approach to 0. So here less than equality, here order of this one is less than the order of n to the power delta is coming. That means n to the power delta is heavier than xn for each n. For each n it is heavier than. And one example we can take it like this way. If you are taking xn equal to n to the power 3, then we can say that it is of order little o of n to the power 4. Why? Because if you divide n to the power 3 with n to the power 4, then what would be we will have 1 by n, and which will approach to 0 when n tends to infinity. So we can say that here n to the power 4 is heavier than n to the power 3, and hence if you take ratio, then ratio is going to converge to 0. So easily you can heavier that concept, it might be clear to you what I discussed. So n to the power 4 is definitely heavier than n to the power 3. If you take any value of n, definitely you will see that. If you take n equal to 2, then n to the power 3 2 to the power 3, it would be it would equal to 8, and 2 to the power 4 would be equal to 16. 16 is definitely, it is heavier than 8. It is heavier than 8. So that scenario is coming. So there is one more notation, that conversation notation, what we are calling it big O notation. So what is happening that when you talk about less than equal to, then it is talking about you are going from right to left. So the equality, there is one less than equal to is talking about two things. One sign is less than, another sign is equality. So that you can call it this upper bound approach. So upper bound. So big O notation is talking about that upper bound order. So that is the criteria, upper bound order. So how we are getting? So when we are taking two sequence, one is xn, another one is n to the power delta. Directly n to the power delta what we are taking, and if you take a ratio of xn with n to the power delta, and that one is converging to some number, okay, when n tends to infinity, then we will claim that xn is of order big O of that n to the power delta. So there is a little bit difference between little o and big O. So what difference we will see is through example we will see it. If you are taking a function like this way, we are taking a function with argument 6x to the power 4 minus 2x to the power 3 plus 5. If you are taking this one, then we can say that function is of order x to the power big O of order big O of x to the power 4, but little o of x to the power x to the power what we call it 4 plus delta, for that heavier term. Because what will happen is that here in case of this little o notation, the ratio is converging to 0, but in case of big O notation it is not like that situation. The ratio may converge to any finite number, so it may converge to any finite number. It may be a constant. So you can take, if you divide this argument with x to the power 4, what you will get? So you will get here 6 minus 2 by x plus 5 by x to the power 4. When x is approaching to infinity, then this will approach to 6. 6 is a fixed number, but so that one is here, that 6 is a fixed number, so and hence it is not falling in the category, it is not converging to 0, it is converging to some fixed number. So that's why Vigo notation we are giving. Okay, and what is how we can go get here little o notation? If you divide this argument with x to the power 4 plus some positive number, then what will happen? So here also 6 to the power 6 by x to the power delta will come, and here also all these terms will contain some power of x. When x will approach to infinity, then this term argument will approach to 0. So that's why this argument is of order x to the power 4 plus delta. Delta is small positive deviation, what we call it a small positive deviation from 4. Okay, so that is the difference between big O and little o notation. Further, there is a special case that if you observe this kind of notation, big O of 1, what does it mean? It simply say that there is a constant term. It is just denoting constant, and we will talk about few example, like we had already expressed sample mean. So sample mean, how we define it? We define it sum of that if sample size is what n, then that means it is observing n number of observation x1 x2 up to xn, and we are defining sample mean like this way. We are summing all these observation and dividing by n. So here what does it mean? Simply someone is saying that why we are defining sample mean like this way. That sample mean is, this sample mean is actually sample mean is in sense of random variable. There are various sample mean. So this so each observation of this sample mean is a fixed sample mean. Each observation is a sample mean of a specific sample mean of a specific sample. So that's why it is acting as a random variable. So if you try to find, suppose all these xi's are coming from the same source, then it will have the same mean and same variance, sigma square. Okay, so if you want to calculate mean of this sample mean or expectation of sample mean, it would be same mu. That means we don't observe sample there in the case of calculating mean of a sample mean. It is independent of n. Okay, simply it would be mu. But if you calculate variance of sample mean, it would be sigma square by n. So we can say that what is meaning of this is of if you take this one with ratio 1 by n, then what we will observe that it will approach to 1. This variance, if it divided by 1 by n, then this will approach to 1. So we can say that variance is of big O of 1 by n. It is big O of 1 by n. That is the meaning of AC. So it is one kind of notation, and also it is talking about convergence as well. So likewise, also if you take any estimator of parameter theta, theta is any unknown parameter. We don't know the value of theta. Like it may be slope, it may be anything mean, and it may be depends upon what kind of scenario is presented there. So we will have sample at hand. From that sample we try to estimate various estimate of theta. So if you take various estimate of theta from a sample size n, then we denote it this by theta hat. Better representation would be theta hat n. So it is one kind of estimator. So estimator always happens to be a random variable. So we have to talk about behavior of estimator. So how and when it will converge to theta. We have to convert to theta. So here convergence, all these criteria demands for notation of this little o and big O. Generally big O notation will come here in this case. So as I discuss here, sample mean is having variance sigma square by n. So we told that here we had already seen that it is of order 1 by n. Also you can say that it is of order 1 by n. What does it mean? What does it mean? So it is simply talking about, so variance, so you have to, variance is having square in it, so you have to bring it in the unit of what? Sample mean. Sample mean is having just unit and variance would have a square in it. So what is the convergence rate? Convergence rate would be here, it will come as 1 by a square root of n, 1 by a square root of n, or this convergence we are calling it root and consistency. So coming to few more concept. So these things I will discuss here: Bayes estimator, and that another name we are calling it map estimator. All these are part of estimator, but here I am talking about asymptotic nature, that little o and big O notation. So that right now don't worry about this. The theory, how these are defined, I will discuss it. It is Bayes is already mentioned here. So it demands application of Bayes theorem in order to calculate, estimate one parameter. Some kind of parameter would be there. So suppose, or some kind of probability distribution if you want to estimate. So suppose you are having a data, that one is coming from some distribution, we don't know that distribution. Or suppose we take binomial distribution. So x is coming from some binomial distribution, and we don't know the value of parameter p, the probability of success we don't know. P is unknown to us. So how we can estimate it? So we will take various observation of x, and from there we try to estimate p. So there are various ways to estimate. So one way to estimate is we are estimating it through Bayes theorem. That means we are defining some prior distribution of p, this p, and based on this prior we try to define posterior distribution of p, posterior value of p, posterior distribution of p, and from there we try to estimate uh, value of p. So in that process, that estimate of p we are calling it Bayes estimate. So it is defined as Bayes estimate like this way. It is actually what is happening, that here some kind of what we call it criterion function will come, loss function will come. So it is actually p is the actual distribution, we don't know. P cap, it would be estimated distribution. Okay, so we are defining definitely p cap. We talk about it is estimated value of p, so and p is the actual one. So definitely what will happen, there would be some kind of difference, so that we are calling it error. So if you directly try to proceed with error, it is not a wise way. If you take a square of error, it is giving a convergent pattern. So always proceed with a square error. So a square error, after what you do, you find a square error. That means for each data, different a square error will come. So what you do, you take mean square error. Mean square, how you find? You find through expectation. But in Bayes theorem, you are proceeding with what? We call it posterior probability. So it is just posterior probability involve both that distribution of p, also distribution of x. Distribution of x, that will come in denominator. So in order to calculate that this expectation of a square, so we can say that in short, mean square error, MSE. But here this MSE we are calculating with respect to joint distribution. Here you can say that joint distribution of the data, what data you have already observed, and joint distribution of p. Jointly, how, what is the joint distribution of x and p both? With respect to that, you try to calculate Bayes estimator. This you are getting it Bayes estimator. One simplest one is you are getting with respect to that one is classical estimator, or least square estimator, what we are calling it least square estimator. How we are getting here, we just try to evaluate this error. We try to calculate this mean square error with respect to data itself only. What data we are having, what data sample we are having, with respect to that only evaluating this expectation, and we try to find p with which this estimate what we call it mean or expectation is having least value. So we try to find that a specific distribution. Okay, so it is least square estimator. So if you try to see these are all are dealing with sample, all these are dealing with sample, but approaches are different. So we can talk about the convergence of these things, because these are what dependent on sample size. We can't we don't have explicit formula of density. This joint density are like also the density of x, we don't know all these density. So what we have to do, we have to define empirical density. We have to define some kind of empirical density that would be definitely function of sample size n, what sample size is given to you. So it would be function of that, and you can see it here like this way. If you try to calculate this one here, this one is coming with respect to uniform distribution. So if you come up with uniform distribution, then Bayes estimator, it is coming a plus x divided by a plus b plus n. Here we took a assumption over p that we are taking it from beta distribution. Here p we have taken it from beta distribution, and from that process we got one estimated value of this estimator, Bayes estimator we got like this way, and we can easily see that it is a function of n. And likewise if you go for MLE estimate of p, it is just what simple, we are taking only one data, so that's why x by n type. Okay, uh, it is just defining about x by n. It is x is talking about that successes divided by n. So sample mean kind of approach is coming, it is here sample mean approach is coming here. So you can see the differences between these two. But if you talk about in large, and when n tends to infinity, so what will happen, both will approach to zero. If n tends to infinity, both will approach to zero. But if you further talk about the representation, then here Bayes estimator he is having complicated representation, while here this MLE estimate is having simpler representation. So we can proceed with this simpler representation, and we can proceed, we can calculate related thing whatever is desired. Okay, if further you talk about so here again little o and big O notation are coming. So little o notation is coming here again, and further this one is one criteria, the relation between two different type of estimator. One estimator of the same thing, that same parameter of this p, we try to estimate it. So it is the relation between two different estimator. To we see that here easily we can talk about represent that in asymptotic equivalence representation. Okay, further if you talk about suppose uh, what is happening that this representation I have already comparison written it here. Further if you try to define, so what is happening, one more term I will define in next model. That one is talking about biasness. So if you go for this least square estimation or maximum likelihood estimation, both are same. So that happens to be unbiased estimator, but this Bayes estimator, it happens to be bias estimator. So if you are having a bias, then definitely you have to get explicit representation of bias, and the explicit representation of bias of this Bayes estimator is AB minus B divided by A plus B plus N. So if you are having a bias, then we talk about variance of the corresponding estimator as well. So this is the variance of the corresponding estimator. So from here we can deduce that if you here if you try to see that a square of uh, if you take a square of bias, then it is of little of order of variance of this Bayes estimator. So from and simply it says that that's why it says that we always decompose mean square error into two segments. One we are calling it variance, another we are calling it bias, a square of bias. So simply we can call it bias. So what is happening that this term, if you are try to take any kind of estimator like here p, you have taken p Bayes, or theta n, if you take theta n that as a estimator of theta, then always you can, if you are willing to find mean square error, then that will be decomposed into two factor. One factor would be bias, another factor would be variance. So that is the ultimate way to check efficiency of a particular estimator. So if variance must be very less, you have to decrease the variance, which one is having least variance, and also in that you have to see the bias as well, so bias as well. So you have to calculate both things, So that also we are calling it bias variance trade-off. You will see that whenever we perform any kind of estimator, we always look for bias variance trade-offs in order to check the efficiency of particular estimator. So I will talk here now, coming to law of large numbers. So here I will talk about to a specific law of large number, that one is large sample, to a specific asymptotic theorem, that one is law of large number, another one is central limit theorem. So here we are going to define first law of large number. So what is law of large number? So suppose you are having an observation, that one is coming from the same source. That means simply you are saying that x1 x2 up to xn, all these are IID, that means identical and uh, independent and identically distributed. Okay, independency we are putting just some simplification point of view. There is you can bring dependency, then you in order to proceed with dependency, you have to go with Markov process. This approach would be not enough. Okay, so here right now we are just taking condition that all these xi's are independent and coming from the same source, identically distributed, and that we don't know the distribution of that source. So if you don't know the distribution of that source, that means x is the source, and we don't know what is the distribution of x, we don't know. Okay, so no worry, we will take n copies of x with unknown distribution, and definitely all will have the same mean because coming from the same source. So we can define a sample mean from these observation. We are taking n observation of x, and from there we are defining a sample mean. Okay, and that sample mean, it will this in law of large number, it is saying that it will converge to uh, actual mean, true mean of the x, true mean of x, or true mean of the distribution as n tends to infinity. This convergence can be approaches in two different way, but both convergence we are calling it convergence in probability. So one approach in which we talk about convergence of this sample mean to mu. So we talk about convergence, it is not just deterministic convergence or sequential convergence what we had already seen in math 1. It is other than that. You can talk about it will talk about convergence in probability. So we can put it here p, convergence in probability. So there are two approaches to define convergence in probability. This convergence, first we are calling it uh, a strong law of large number, in which it is talking about almost sure convergence. So a stronger convergence, better convergence, but it is a stronger. But if you try to establish this one, it would be much difficult. So how we define a strong convergence of law, a strong law of large number? We define it like this way. That means we are taking limit of this sample mean when n tends to infinity, and the limit is, it would be equal to mu with what probability. So you have to ask with what probability, what is the probability that this limit will equal to actual mean or true mean. What is the probability that this limit is approaching to mu? Probability is equal to 1. So this convergence, we are talking about convergence with probability here. We are talking here, you can easily see that convergence with probability. So this is a stronger convergence with probability 1, what we are calling it with probability 1. There is one more representation of convergence in probability that we are calling it weak law of large number. It is talking about that suppose we are seeing that sample mean, this one is the sample mean. It is within epsilon distance, within epsilon ball of mu. It is within epsilon ball of mu. Okay, for some epsilon. So here for some epsilon, or for any epsilon, better call it for any epsilon, we are defining what is the probability limit. What is the probability limit that this sample mean is within epsilon ball of mu, within epsilon distance of mu. Simply we can say that epsilon distance mu is here. So what would be epsilon ball? It is a function one variable kind of thing. So this would be mu plus epsilon, and left hand limit, it would be mu minus epsilon. So what is the probability, limit probability, that this sample mean is falling here in this ball? So that probability is equal to 1. Again, convergence with probability, here we are talking. So this one is weaker sense. It is not directly talking about convergence to mu, it is talking about in epsilon distance. So you are taking a little bit of freedom, you are getting some kind of weaker notation of convergence in probability. So that's why this law we are calling it weak law of large number, but both are talking about convergence of sample mean to true mean. So how convergence is happening in two different approach it is happening. One approach is this one, a stronger law, another approach is weaker law, but both approach we are talking about convergence with probability. So that you might have already seen that why it is different from convergence, that deterministic convergence that directly deal with the epsilon and n. Here probability is also coming here. If you try to see convergence in probability, then probability also coming into picture in order to establish the convergence here. So this convergence you can call it a stochastic convergence. Okay, then one more convergence will come, that we will talk about convergence in distribution. So that's why I'm generalizing the stochastic convergence in two different ways. What are those? So I'm first will be convergence in probability, and then second one would be convergence in distribution. So convergence with probability 1, probability, what would be probability? So convergence with probability 1. So that this scenario we are saying that convergence with probability 1. So that means we are taking limit of any that xn, any sequence xn, sequence of random variable xn, and it will converge to x with probability 1. So you can read it like this: convergence of xn to x after with probability 1. So convergence with probability 1, and that we are talking about. So there is one more concept, that convergence in distribution. So that means take a sequence of random variable xn and it will converge to x in distribution. How we will define? So here we have to take distribution of xn and distribution of x, this one, distribution of x. So when n tends to infinity, this distribution function, that means cumulative distribution function of xn, it is going to converge to distribution, cumulative distribution function of x. This convergence we are calling it convergence in distribution. The central limit theorem is based on this, and the law of large number is based on this. Law of large number, it is based on this, and central limit theorem is based on this. So there are two types, generally two type of convergence, stochastic convergence. One is convergence in probability, another one is convergence in distribution. So here I will take few example. So what is happening, that convergence in probability is a stronger condition than convergence in distribution. So what you will see that if you some sequence of random distribution, random variable, it will if it is converge in probability, that will imply that that sequence will also converge in distribution. Okay, but converse is not true. That means if you are having a sequence which is convergence in distribution, may not be convergent in probability. So you can say that convergence in probability is much a stronger condition than convergence in distribution. Convergence in distribution is what we call it weaker condition, weaker than convergence in probability. That I would like to say that. So I am taking one example, that x1, x2 up x3, we are taking few data from IID Bernoulli distribution, and what is the parameter? The parameter, that probability of success is 1 by 2. That one is given to you. Okay, so these xi are IID. Now we are taking a x as a limit of this sequence. So we are, that means we are a sequence of Bernoulli random variable, simply Bernoulli random variable with parameter 1 by n. Now what is happening, that we claim that xn is converging to x, this Bernoulli random variable, x is the limit of xn. So tell me what would be the in which way it will converge? So it may converge in probability, it may converge in distribution. So that we will see it here, but what try to see it like this way. So easily we can establish convergence in distribution. How? We have to find distribution of this one, distribution of xn. So it would be what? Very simple to find distribution of xn, because it is coming from Bernoulli distribution. So we can easily find the distribution of this one. Okay, and if you can check distribution of this one, it will converge to distribution of x. It will converge to distribution of x. But if you try to define convergence in probability, then I told that it is dealing with that limiting value in the epsilon neighborhood of this limiting value of x. So you take epsilon neighborhood of this one in while defining convergence in probability. So this call it x plus delta epsilon and x minus epsilon. So that means simply you are dealing with this mod of x and minus x you are dealing. So it is we know that x is again random variable, x n is also a random variable. If you take difference is again, yes. Any question? Any question? Anyone is asking any question? Just let me know. No question. Okay, fine. It is already above time. So we will cover other things in next class.